What is going on? Today I received some pickups from a customer out of a Hofner bass. It's these staple humbucker things. I got both. One is working, this one's working, and the other one is DOA. You're not getting a reading, and we'll get into the details on that. So if that interests you, we're gonna rewind it, we're gonna fix it, we're gonna make it work again. Sit tight and come along for the ride. We're gonna make it work again. So that's what we're doing on this one. So like I said in the intro, I've got a set of Hofner bass pickups, old ones. Not sure what year, but one's dead, so we're gonna make it work. What's funny is, things come in 2s or 3s, typically 3s. I've already rewound a set of these a couple months ago for someone else. They were the chrome covered ones. I'll do some pictures over here. So these are essentially the same, but a little bit different. So different year, whatever. Essentially the same pickups. Like the bobbins look the same. The overall build is very similar. Those ones had, I don't know if they had brass base plates. These ones do. And the magnet, I'm looking over here because I got a couple of pictures up there. Magnet was about the same, but the keeper bar, so the steel bar that the screw bobbin goes onto, is different. That one there, the old one that I showed pictures for, had a different bar that was held onto the base plate. Whereas this is just loose, and so I'm not sure how this all works out here. But anyways, just to show how essentially the same pickup in those old basses and guitars, they varied year to year. They look the same at surface level, but once you get into them, they kind of change a little bit. But it's essentially the same idea. So the way I got it, the way I received it was, so the working one, so this one is reading at about 7.59 k ohms. I forget what the Henrys were on that, but it gives you an idea of how many turns and stuff, so, or what the total resistance should be on the repaired one. And then the other pickup was all in pieces, and I had two bobbins. So they have a gray one and a pink one. I believe the other one, which would have been older. Actually, you know what? The bobbins do look different now that I look at it. You probably noticed that already when I popped the pictures up. Actually, no, because you haven't seen the bobbins on this one. These ones are kind of square. The other ones are rounded, but that's plastic. The internal dimensions are probably close to the same. Anyways, so I got two of them, and they didn't have the hookup wires, like the little wires like this that connected to the hookup lead, or in this case, it's they connect to the terminal on the base plate here, and then grounds on this. It didn't have any of that. It was just loose ends of coil wire. So I put on the gray one, so the gray one here is the staple side. I hooked up new little wires onto that one, and I got a reading. So I was able to tape that up all nice and neat, and hook it back up to the hot connector here, which leads to the white on this wire here. And the ground goes to the base plate, which then grounds over here. So I was able to tape it up, put it back on. I'm getting a reading of about 3.61, 3.62. I'm not gonna unwind this one and count the turns one by one, because I'd have to charge thousands of dollars for repair, and we're not doing that. And I don't have time or patience, so we're gonna cut it all off. But we kind of figure out roughly what it is, right? So you got 3.6, so that would be 7.2 as a total resistance, which puts it in the range of, like, this one be the 7.59. So this could be bridge. The other one could be neck, because usually you like to keep the neck's a little lower wind for a little bit less woof, a little more clarity. So 3.62 would be, yeah, like the 7.25, give or take, right? And then that number can change once you add in the magnet and the steel base plate. It'll affect that resistance too. So I'm going to shoot for about 3.6, 3.62 on this bobbin for a total of 7.25 to max 7.5. Gets it right in the range, and it'll work, it'll sound good, and everybody will be happy. So what I did with this one, I tried to do this one because I couldn't find the start coil end, but there was a finish with a bit of gentle, you kind of push around like the coil wire, and I was able to find the start. So what do I mean by start? Well, you have a bobbin. I don't have a bare bobbin here, but you have a bobbin, right? And you wind it with coil. Well, the start point will be under all of that coil, right? And then the finish side of the coil will be on the outer layers. So what happens a lot of times is the start coil breaks and you've got nothing to wrap it around a new wire. It's under there. So you have to cut it off and rewind it. I was able to find the start, so I was able to solder this black wire right here. And then I took on the finish side, the one that's wrapped on the outer coil, I soldered on a wire here too. Just like I did with the other one, but this time I'm not getting a reading, which tells me that there's a break in the coil somewhere inside. And who knows where that would be, right? You can unwind that forever. Essentially, I could just cut it all out, rewind it, and it'll sound as good, if not better than original. So that's what we're gonna do. So I tried the test, it didn't work, it's reading nothing, which means the two outer points are not connecting. Somewhere in the coil, there's a break. So we can rip that off. We can rip that off, and we're gonna cut this all up. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm not gonna show you cutting the stuff. Like basically I'm just using a little scalpel knife and cutting into the coil wire till I get to the bottom, peel it all out. You wanna try, if you're into this kind of stuff and you wanna wind pickups or fix pickups, you do this, but you wanna try and not damage the bobbin. Every once in a while you get like a little cut groove in there. You can sand that out, sand it smooth with some sandpaper, and you don't want to leave that untreated, because then it's going to grab on your coil wire and it's going to break a coil wire you're going to have to cut it all out again. And so I will cut all this out. We'll go tabletop, and I'll show you how I measure a bobbin, and then I use a proprietary coil estimator to figure out how many turns, that kind of thing, which we'll calculate, but I'm not going to show you the screen because I don't feel like it. So I'll be back with all the coils cut out, and we'll measure that up, and we'll go from there. So I cut all the coil wire off, and I did measure it with with this guy here, the micrometer, and the closest match is 42 gauge poly. So that's what we're going to use on this rebuild. Now, by cutting into the coil wire like this, sometimes you get a little bit of stuff here, but this bobbin was also kind of rough looking before I started digging into it too. It's just the nature of just thin, cheap plastic. So I just usually grab some, what is this? 180, whatever. So I've got a sandpaper that will just smoothen out those edges, just so that nothing catches on the coil wire, because it's so fine, any little thing can catch it, and then it pulls the wire and you get a breakage. And you got to start over again, and nobody likes to start over. So it doesn't have to look polished and clean, it just has to feel nice and smooth. Which I'm getting here, so that's pretty good. All right, next, so we got couple measurements here. So you got the flange, which is the full width of the bobbin. We'll pull that at the bottom. Right, and then you've got the inner dimensions. So you need the length, and the width, and the height. These are all the internal dimensions, and then the flange is the full width. So lengthwise, so I do this in inches, get that zeroed. The length of the bobbin, we got 2.4255. Then the width, 0.2210. And then height, so how tall the bobbin is on the inside. So we got 0.3390. And then the flange. I like to do it like on these ones, like not in the center because it could crush it. So I do it on the edge here. 0.5750, 755, whatever, that's close enough. Cool, so these are the dimensions that we need to calculate in order to get 3.6K-ish to match the working bobbin. So I'm on the calculator here. So length 2.4255, width is 0.2210, the height 0.3390, the flange is 0.5755. That's in inches. And then we'll calculate those for 3,600, so 3.6K ohms. And I'm getting around, saying somewhere between 4,700 turns and 4,800 turns. So I'm gonna go on the high end of that. I'll go 4,800 turns, nice even number. That should get us there. If you want to look for something similar to what I'm using, if you Google pickup coil estimator, you'll find something very similar to what I'm using. I just have my own, like I made my own based on stuff that I use and specs that I use and my own pickups and that stuff. So, but if you Google pickup coil estimator, it'll kind of get you a similar thing. So that's what I'm using there. My own version of it. So let's get to winding. The winder I'm using, we've seen it on the channel before because it's portable, is this little cheap Shatton winder. I've got a bracket, 3D printed bracket here. It's all adjustable. And we got the bobbin, we just slide it on like that with brace and then some thumb screws to hold it all tight. Would I like a fancier winding machine? Yeah, it'd look cooler, you know, here. But I like this one because it leaves everything to me. It doesn't control the turns. It doesn't control this. Nothing is computer control. Literally all it does is it turns and it counts the turns. And really that's all you really need. You could even eyeball it and just use a drill in a vise with a bracket and put it on there and tape the trigger down and have it turn, and that would wind pickups too. So these little ones, like they don't look as fancy, they don't look as cool, but I like these especially for repairs and stuff because they're so simple yet so adjustable, and you can make it work for anything basically. And it's portable, so I could just go grab it from the shop and bring it up here where there's light and less of a mess. And use it and wind it here and show you guys that you don't need the expensive stuff just to rewind or make pickups. You know, the winder doesn't make the tone, like the winding machine does not make the tone. It's all you. So we got 42 gauge coil wire. I'm gonna put that down, hook it up, and we'll wind it up. Yeah, let's get to doing that. All right, cool. So we're mounted. As you can see here, I've got some tape here that's holding a long strand of coil wire. That would be the start point. It's taped on, and the coil needs to be wound clockwise. I've got the top side facing out, so the bottom facing this way. So you want the winds to be this way. So you're gonna want the winder to go counterclockwise, right, to wind it clockwise. If I had bottom side facing out and top side facing in, I could go clockwise and it would wind it the right direction. But I tend to prefer having the bottom side of the bobbin this way on this machine. So got it taped up. Now comes the time to adjust the stoppers. So I just turn that and see if I've got that set up right. That looks pretty good. You don't want it to rub too tight against it, because as the wines go, they spread out a bit. So then you test the top one, and I'm probably gonna have to adjust the height of this a little bit. Yeah, just a hair. There you go. So that's pretty good. So now all we got to do is turn the machine on, have it turn, and then in the readings here, once it hits close to 4800, we slow down and it'll be rewound. So here goes. I'll speed that up, of course. I always like to check it halfway to kind of inspect the shape of the coil here. Kind of tells you where you need to pass a little more and that kind of stuff. Try to get the right shape. So in the good one, the shape was rounded. So we're going to try and copy that. All right, so we're all done. The wine, now we gotta get it all prepped and stuff for wiring it up. So here we are with the bobbin all rewound. I taped it up a bit just to kind of get it ready for soldering and stuff, but you know, we got the finished coil. This is the finish end and the start end. You can see where it's right under all that, right? It's kind of coming out from the middle. So that's your start. What we'll do is we'll solder on some leads, a couple wires here. And then you always want to pre-tin those. Hopefully that's on the camera. Let's get this out of the way. I think I'm due for a new soldering tip here. It's looking pretty rough. All right, so we tin that. And then I kind of want this to sit about halfway. Wrap that coil wire a bunch of times on the tinned wire. And then we solder that on. Snip the tip. That's nice and clean. And then when we tape it all up, this will be sitting like this. Now we'll do the same thing with the finish end here. So same thing, about halfway. We got another wire here. Tin that. And then solder it on. So now we should be getting a reading off of these 2 points. There we go. Right, okay, so we're getting about 3.77. But the thing to remember is this just got wound, and with my hands and stuff, it's warming up the wire. So it's gonna read hotter. Once it's assembled and it cools down, this will end up being about 3.6, 3.62. So we got a working coil. So that's fixed up. Now we got to assemble this bad boy. That'll sit like this. That'll sit on the other side like that. Wrap it up with tape. Here goes. There we go. Then we give it another check just to make sure we didn't pull something apart here. .79. See, so I just wrapped it with tape. Coil warmed up a bit more, so it's reading hotter. So we still have a working coil. So now we can just assemble this thing. So the one thing that I'm wondering though is what's going to hold this to this. You'd almost think this would be kind of crazy glued in here. I'll have to figure that out after. Okay. Get these pole screws out. Right, and then the magnet too. So I made sure the magnet is the right side. So polarity tester, right? You got white is negative, right? Or white is north and black is south. Matching the good one. So we're getting south on the screws, north on the staples. So we're going to do the same thing here. And then so the start is the black on this one, and the finish is the white. The start on this guy is the red, and the finish is the green. So these two are going to be soldered and wired together and tucked in. This will go to ground, and then we should get an overall reading of both coils. Let's see here. Might have to cut this a little shorter. And the two finishes together. Test that again. So if you look over here, you should see a number testing the lead here. We're getting about 7.38, 7.4. I'm kind of moving around here with the wires, but 7.41 k ohms. So we're right in the ballpark of where we need to be. So that's perfect. Now what I do with this usually is just kind of give it a little twist, a little bit of tape. Tape it off. Tuck her in. That's all there is to it. Normally I would put just a strip. I might actually still do it. But usually these are fastened to the base plate. In this case, they're not, but I'm still going to put a piece of tape, I think, just to kind of cover the tape there. That'll all be covered with the plastic cover anyway, but you know, just a little small amount of tape, tuck everything in. Just on the back side like that. Then the cover. And then the screws. There you go. So, one last test here. .46 k ohms. Pretty much right in the ballpark. We made this one work so that it can now work with this one. Look at that. So, awesome. So hopefully you like that. That was kind of different, right? For a guitar channel. Making something dead work again. So these are all fixed up and they will be going to back to the customer probably tomorrow. And everybody will be happy and head on into the weekend. So thanks for watching along. If you've gotten this far, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, maybe I'll make more. I think I kind of want to wind a set of 59ers and maybe have it kind of go up as like a viewer contest of sorts. Maybe once I hit 250 subscribers, maybe we'll give out a set of 59er Origins or something like that. That might be cool. We got to reach 250 first, right? Still small numbers, but growing every day, a little bit by bit. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We'll figure out what we're going to do going forward, keeping things fresh and all that. But I do appreciate anybody who is watching and who is subscribing. Thanks for that. It gives me, it gives me a ray of sunshine of like, hey, maybe I should keep doing this. because it is a battle to come up with reasons why you should continue doing videos, right? Like you're always battling with your head, you're like, nobody's really watching. But then you get someone making a comment or watching or hitting subscribe. And then you're gonna like, oh, well, maybe there is a point to this. So if you like this and you're not subscribed, do me a favor, right? Click like, watch the videos, you know. If you got a question, hit the comments and I'll answer it. I mean, unless you're being a dick about it, I'll answer. And that'll be that, man. So hope you guys have a great rest of the week, a great weekend, all that stuff. Hopefully you're not buried in snow still or whatever, right? Whatever kind of weather you get. We get snow here. We've been in the green grass for a while now, but I've got family up north that are still pretty much covered in snow. But hopefully that's changing now. So thanks again. We'll see you on the next one.